Now comes the big one. In order to get access to this lower pivot, we are going to need to take our cranks off. Now it's okay at this side, as you can see, you've got nice clear access, but this is a through bolt and you need to be able to hold the opposite side as well. So first and foremost, this is an Evo, so it's a Holotech. Depending on what bike you've got, it will be different methods of taking the cranks off, but for anybody that has running a Holotech 2 type assembly, it will be like this. So end cap comes off, so end cap is out, and they're only going to need a couple of rotations just to get themselves off and loose enough. So with the pinch bolts loosened off and the end cap off, we can now just pull the crank arm off here, put it to the side, and then what we need to do is drive through our crank arm far enough that we can get a purchase on the rear of this bolt here. We can now gain access to this bolt at the back. It just needs to be enough so I can get a 5mm hex head, Allen key, whatever on the back end to hold it while I loosen it from the other end. So now we've got access on the other end. I can hold one end of this pivot bolt, so a 5mm on that side, 6mm on this side, and as you can see they are linked, so as I turn them you're going to have to hold them in order to get them loose. So that's it turned out, and the entire assembly is one big pivot shaft going all the way through, and we see the bearing itself is held within the rear triangle. Again, just put your finger in, make sure that it's rotating nice and smooth. If there's no movement at all, then obviously this is going to be a seized bearing, but same procedure as the rocker one. So with them freeing out, you should be able to turn them by finger pressure alone. If they don't turn, the usual assessment, we can pop the seal on this side without pushing them out, try give them a blast out, see if that helps. And if failing that, then we need to replace. So with this bearing set, without having to take it off the frame, it could be done. Again, we're pushing the blade on the inside and just levering out. So just like so. And by rotating it, it allows any trapped grit that's underneath the bearings to make its way to the outside. So I'm just going to allow that to dry out, then I'll repack with grease. Back in a minute. So bearings had a chance to dry out all the solvent from the degreasant, so again we're just packing her full of grease. It's load bearing rather than speed, so we're okay for completely packing it and making it pretty much airtight. So we go there, and then we just need to add on our seal. Just making sure it's pushed all the way home. So we've got ourselves to this position here. We've checked out the lower and we've decided that it needs to be replaced. With the rocker removed, we're going to be able to push the arm up the way. You'll notice that the back wheel is away as well, so it's not going to pull itself down. And then we have enough slack in the cables, if we pull the cables through, that we can pull the rear triangle backwards. Now as you pull it backwards, remember there's top cap spacers at the back. So we're just going to push that out to there. I'm going to retrieve these little washers and put them away for safekeeping. And now we have full access to the back end. We have the shock here, we're going to push it down against the frame and we're going to lever this up so that we get nice clearance into this bearing here. Now what you can now do is attach the rear triangle to the seat. So I've just got anything will do, a bit of string, whatever. I'm using a head torch that's elasticated, so round the seat post, round the back end, and that's going to hold it in place. So we're going to add our socket that's big enough for the bearing to fit into. We're slotting this bolt all the way through, and then on the other side you need something to tighten onto. So I've got this nut that fits perfectly in the hole. So put this in place, tighten up the slack, and there it's there, just button up against the back of the bearing. We'll get our ratchet and we just start twisting and pulling through the bearing. Now it will take a wee bit of force to get it going, but you can see this big washer here is getting pulled in tighter and tighter into the frame. And once I get to there, that's as far as I can go, and we should see the bearing has pulled itself out so far, so it's nearly all the way there. So you can just strike or tap on the back and that should work its way loose, like so. If it's taking heavy hammering, I would go back to pressing so that it's as far out as it can get. So before we push the new bearings in, we need to clean up the surfaces where the bearings have been. Now, Calibre paint has never been amazing, and it looks like in this case when they've pressed the bearings and the paint's probably still wet, so as you push them out you may get a wee bit of paint coming off. It's kind of normal and unavoidable in this case. We've got the exact same sort of rig, but this time we're trying to push it in instead of pulling it out. So this setup that I've got here is the same washer that I was using, or the same nut, but I've flipped it over so that it is flush with the back. So that's flush there. We've got a shorter bolt because I don't need a longer bolt, and I have this washer which is the exact diameter of the bearing. So the trick is this outer race, the outer side of the metal, that's what you want to push against. You don't want to be pushing against the center or against the rubber seal because that will break it. So you want it to be exactly flush with this, so when you put your assembly together it's going to start pushing directly on the outer race. The bearing is getting pushed in every time I rotate. And we'll keep going until we know that it's driven home, and you'll feel a lot more pressure once you've got it flattened out, which is there. And once we're there, we just back out. Assembly taken apart, washer out, and you can see perfectly driven home seal. That's the assembly dealt with, so now we're going to get this band off, or whatever you've used to retain the rear triangle, so now that we can maneuver. And now we're going to get our bottom end pivots tightened on. Rear triangle is now unrestrained. We have the maneuverability to get our lower pivot lined up with the main frame. So again comes out these top hat washers. Now these go on the inside here, and then another one here, and then we need to maneuver it down. Now again, this is easier with the rear rocker linkage disassembled and taken out, and also the rear wheel off, so there's no weight, there's nothing you're fighting against really. So putting it back together, make sure we get the right order. So the long shaft side is going in from the non-drive side and all the way through. So we're going to push here, and it may take a wee bit of wiggling about just to get that to go through. So as you're pressing your thumb or whatever you can against the back end, we're just going to manipulate and move around the rear triangle until we get alignment and it drops itself in. So that's it in, all the way through. So move ourselves onto the other side. We have the other end of the pivot shaft, which is a specially made bolt with flange, designed to fit perfectly obviously this side to try and keep the gunk of the trail out. So I'm just tightening this on by hand. So I've got our torque wrench set to 12 Newton meters here. We are just tightening on until we get there. Now I've got my finger on the back and feeling if the other half of the pivot bolt is rotating, which it's not. If it does, just get an Allen key or another bit if you like to put on the back, and that'll hold it in place while we're torquing up. And that's it there. So there's nothing else we need to do. That's as tight as it goes. You tighten it too much, you will destroy the bearings prematurely. It's not tight enough, then obviously the other problem is it comes undone.